Guys, it's Aisha here and I'm back with another video, and this one I'm doing it a little differently because I'm going to do a voiceover, of course, because I had the video but I didn't have the audio for the video. I didn't do any for the video, so I'm doing it now. But anyway, it's a month late, but better late than never. And today we are going to be talking about Zwarte Piet, aka Black Pete. And this is a tradition in the Netherlands as a folklore of the Low Countries, and he is said to be the companion or helper of Santa Claus. So the character first appeared in an 1850s book created by a school teacher in Amsterdam named Jan Schenkman. And he is depicted as a Moor from Spain, and a Moor is a Muslim or someone of darker skin tone. Europeans could typically distinguish them between black Moors and white Moors. Anyway, the Netherlands didn't abolish slavery until 1863, and they were heavily involved in the transatlantic slave trade, which grew prosperous by selling enslaved people to the United States or sending them to work in the Dutch colonies. Some nobles even gave the enslaved people, usually children, as gifts to each other. So yeah. So anyway, to celebrate the Dutch St. Nicholas holiday on December 5th, parades are usually held where St. Nick arrives in town and hands out sweets and gifts and baked goods along with his helper, Zwarte Piet. Well, recently this tradition has taken a political and violent turn because it is largely because Zwarte Piet, aka Black Pete's appearance. And he typically appears in blackface, wearing large gold earrings and exaggerated lips. And it's usually a white person dressed with black face paint or shoe polish. You know, the typical minstrel, racist caricature of black people that's still going around apparently in 2020, 2021. So it is said that this exaggerated appearance of Zwarte Piet may have been influenced by American blackface minstrel shows, and they toured throughout Europe in the mid-19th century. So anyway, in the weeks leading up to the parade, stores would stock up on Zwarte Piet costumes, merchandise, and baked goods, and white people throughout these towns would basically dress up in blackface as Zwarte Piet and visit children's homes and schools. Like, could you imagine dressing in blackface to entertain children at their schools and their homes? Like, how did the black kids feel when they saw some random white person dressed up as a caricature of a black person coming to their school or children's home, orphanage, or that's supposed to be entertainment? I don't get that. So recently, a growing number of Netherlanders have been protesting the tradition of Zwarte Piet because of its obvious racism. They in turn have been facing increasing backlash from white supremacists. So at the traditional parades, the white supremacists they've been raising the Nazi salute, specifically the Sinterklaas parade in Hoorn, and flew the Nazi flags at the one in Zandijk. I don't know. I'm going to put it on the screen because I do not know what that says. In Eindhoven, about 250 white supremacists chanted racist slogans and threw eggs and beer cans at people peacefully protesting the parade. Doesn't that sound familiar? Because It's very similar to what's going on over here. And this is all in 2020. It's very similar to what's going on over here in the United States. Basically have a group of people saying, hey, we're people too, respect us. We're not here for your entertainment. Don't make fun of our culture. Don't make fun of us as people. And then you have another group of people saying, no, we don't respect you and we're going to harm you physically because you would like respect as people and you want to be treated as people. So that's what's happening, to sum it up in a nutshell. So these actions gain national attention, not only for the outlandish, violent acts towards the peaceful protesters, but also because of the Prime Minister Mark Rutte's statement blaming the extremists on both sides for the violence. Because, yeah, that's like blaming somebody in an abusive relationship, saying that, I don't know, it's your fault for getting hit. I don't understand how you can blame both sides. You have one side throwing beer cans and eggs, and you have another side sitting there peacefully protesting. Doesn't exactly add up. So yeah, he blamed both sides, on extremists on both sides, for the actions that were carried out, when clearly there was only one side of aggressors and who were perpetuating violence. And of course, some of the Dutch tend to argue that Black Pete is a Dutch thing, and other people outside the Netherlands don't understand their culture, quote unquote, even though it's not really, because they got it from racist menstrual acts they got from the United States. That's where it came from. So that doesn't even make any sense. So Mitchell Agazi, a co-founder of New Urban Collective and Kick Out Zwarte Piet, said, but it is part of an international tradition of racial stereotyping. Pressure from activists like Mitchell and Quincy Garia, who started the project Zwarte Piet is Race Me, which means Black Pete is racism, has convinced some cities and schools to phase blackface out of the celebrations. Which is wild, because like, people know that blackface is inherently racist and they don't typically do anything about it until you call it out. So it's like, you know it's racist, you know it's wrong, but you're not going to do anything about it until somebody says something about it, rather than doing something about it beforehand. That just doesn't sit right with me. For instance, in 2020, McDonald's banned employees from dressing as Pete, and the Dutch police announced that it won't allow Pete costumes at its holiday parties after 2020. So before 2020, you knew it was racist and it was wrong, obviously. But now that it's getting national attention and more people are talking about it, now you want to take action. Even though you've had minorities working for you long before that. And that's the thing that kind of concerned, like, how do the people of color, the Black people who work at the police departments and who work at McDonald's there, how did they take this? Like, did they were just not say anything about it? I don't know. Were they just convinced that it was just part of their tradition and that was that? Because that, I don't know, that just doesn't sit right with me. I can see how some things can be like not swept under the rug, but kind of overlooked. But this is one of those things that's just slapped like right in your face. I remember seeing some movies and shows about this. Like just movies, like typical cheesy D-rated horror movies that involved Black Pete. I saw some on Netflix actually, and it was shocking to me seeing that for the first time. I was like, why is this on here? So it's not something that's kind of subtle. It's not subtle at all. It's very apparent. It's very in your face. But like I said, a lot of people aren't taking action, or just now taking action after it's been called out, after these organizations have been formed and these activists are coming for their necks. Now they're taking action and saying, yeah, we're gonna ban this. This is bad now, when it's been bad. It's been bad since 1850. So the police department said that after 2020, they're no longer allowing anyone to dress as Pete at their holiday parties. But, of course, they found a loophole for this. People always find a loophole, especially racists. They usually find a loophole to express their racism and then try to claim not to be racist. Try to blame it on something else, such as tradition or any other thing, history, etc. So, as usual, when organizations ban Zwarte Piet, they just changed the character's image instead of actually getting rid of him altogether. In Amsterdam's Sinterklaas parade, Zwarte Piet became Schoorstein Pete, aka Chimney Pete, who is covered in soot and has different clothing. This isn't satisfying to all anti-Pete activists, but some are just happy to get rid of the more offensive black face paint and wigs that appear in most parades. So as the movement against Pete has grown, so has the white supremacy in favor of him. Of course, naturally, of course. I'm pretty sure that most people didn't really care that much until people started actively speaking out against Black Pete. And then all of a sudden these people are like picking a side, like, yeah, no, this is our tradition, why are you trying to take this away, blah blah blah. Like, because it's wrong, obviously. Some journalists have even received death threats for writing about Zwarte Piet, and some anti-blackface activists have survived violent attacks. And of course, as usual, doesn't seem like much is being done to these people who are perpetuating these attacks. So yeah, it's very similar to what's going on in the United States. Some shows and movies that I've seen featuring Black Pete were Sinterklaas on Netflix, which was removed, an episode on The Office, which was also removed, and so many more. I believe there was an episode on Always Sunny or something like that. It was so many different shows that featured episodes about this, and I don't know, I guess they tried to find the humor. I don't know what they were doing. It was like, bro, it's blackface. Like, what y'all doing? It's blackface. It's not funny. And that's the thing, people try to pass it off as, oh, it's just humor, it's just funny. I'm like, but yeah, that's how the minstrel show started. The minstrel shows were supposed to be funny too, but it's still at the expense of black people. It's still caricatures of black people. It's still racist. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, people trying to hide behind humor, that's not, it's still not okay. Like, no. Yeah. Not all jokes are funny. And these definitely aren't. Like, I don't even see how that's supposed to be funny. Like, it's just kind of cheap humor. And I don't know. I've never seen the humor in it. Like, how do people find this funny? It just, I don't know. Unless you just just hate the person that is trying to portray. Then I guess you would find it funny in that sense. Like, imagine somebody dressing as someone that you hate, and whatever they just acted really stupid, and that was funny to you. That's what it seems like to me. That's what it is. So whenever people say, oh, this is our tradition, this is our history, that's what comes to mind for me. It's like, you're dressing as someone they're dressing as someone you hate, and it doesn't matter what they do. They act stupid, and they make themselves out to be fools, and that's the humor in it for you. They're humiliating themselves, and that's what's funny to you. They're humiliating a race of people, and that's the comedy for you. That's just really stupid to me. So it's really a shame that it's taken this long for people to kind of start looking into this and speaking out about this. Because like I said, there's been many shows and movies about this, for real. And people are just now, like networks and stuff are just now removing them after, like I said, it's coming to light. It's like, they've been there. I've seen them. They've been there. And Netflix tried to backpedal and say that no, they didn't remove the st.nicholas movie on their network because of the backlash. They're saying that, you know, they take shows off periodically and stuff like that. But I've seen some terrible movies that's been up for years, and I think I've seen that st.nicholas movie. I think I saw that a couple of years, maybe like last year or something. Early last year, like around Christmas, something like that. But yeah, they're, instead of just saying, hey, we were wrong for even putting that on our services, they just denied it and said that it was removed just because that's what we do. We periodically just remove stuff just randomly. And it has nothing to do with the backlash going on now. Which, I'm like, that's super convenient, huh? But yeah, you know. Other shows like The Office and 30 Rock, they've apologized for their episodes that have had blackface on it, so yeah. So like I said, it's a shame that it's taken this long, but at least something is being done now, I guess. And more people are just speaking out about it, so that's great. It's just crazy, like, all this is happening in 2020. That's the funny thing of it, like, not funny, but that's the weird coincidence of it all, is everything's happening in 2020 or has happened in 2020. All this stuff is suddenly coming out in 2020. But like I said, this was never a secret. This has always been out in the face, like out in their faces. Like, I can't imagine going to a parade and seeing some dudes, a bunch of people walking down the street in blackface, or coming into shops in blackface, and stores that have Zwarte Piet merchandise advertised and hanging in windows, black face dolls with wigs on and red lips hanging in windows. Like, I would not want to live there. I would feel threatened just leaving my house. And I don't know, it's just wild to me. And it's crazy how people can sit back and say that, oh, it's just tradition, when, like, for real, it was invented in 1850 by a school teacher. And it was brought over there by from the United States minstrel shows. So yeah, it's very frustrating. Like I implore you to look more into this. It's very interesting. Is a lot. As always, is a lot. But luckily, happily, people are now starting to call it out for what it is. and not just kind of turn a blind eye to it. So that's great. I'm happy about that. I hope they continue to do that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, and please look more into this and let me know what you found out. So yeah, I just wanted to drop a little bit of knowledge about that and what I found. But like I said, there's always much more. So keep looking into it. And thank you, and peace out.